Mike is which here?
So are we not wearing masks today?
No, because we're not interacting with the public. Carrie and I talked about that. If we had people coming in, I think we should, but we don't.
That's what the other.
Are we videoing?
Check.
Kara? Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, you can take this one. Yeah, I can find it, but it'd take me a minute, Kara. You have them? Good. Okay. There were 25 minutes. Did it seem like 25 sets a minute?
Get the guidance, remaining guidances, or do I need to
No, I
forward
thought
them
you
again?
said you were
I
going
was
to
going
send
to.
them out, so I didn't do anything about it.
Yep, so I'll-
I've got them. Okay, we'll begin. Chair will call the Custer County Board of County Commissioners meeting to order.
We need a microphone on the speakerphone.
Have to let the record show today is June 17th, 2020, and the time is 9 o'clock a.m.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and good morning. Madam Clerk to the board, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Flower.
Present.
Commissioner Kanda.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
Clerk to the Board of Village.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. Audience introductions. If you are on the phone, now would be an appropriate time to introduce yourself, please.
Elliot Jackson, Wet Mountain Tribune.
Thank you. Go ahead, introduce yourselves, please.
Cindy Flower, APR Coordinator.
Are there only two on the phone this morning? Okay, thank you. Welcome, good morning, appreciate that. Kara, would you send Vern an email and ask him to let you know how many people are on the call? Thank you. Any amendments to the agenda this morning, gentlemen?
None from me.
No, sir.
Nor do I. Approval of the minutes. I would move that we approve the following minutes submitted by the clerk. April 27th. Sorry, is it? Yeah, let me finish my motion. The following minutes: April 27th, April 30th, May 4th, May 5th, and May 20th.
I'll second it.
Thank you, sir. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Discussion.
Kelly, they were really good, and I'm not going to let you resign. I know. I'm just making a statement ahead of time.
Yeah, thanks for your work, Kel. Appreciate it. We're making headway, aren't we? Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Candace, sorry. Commissioner Prince?
Aye.
And Commissioner Flower votes aye. Motion carries. Those minutes have been adopted or approved as presented. Commissioner items. Commissioner Prince, would you like to begin?
Sure, thank you. It's not been that long, but been very, very busy. On the 4th, of course, we had the Board of Health meeting.
On the 8th, we had a workshop. On the 9th, I attended a tourism meeting, and also that day I attended the Office of Emergency Management meeting. On the 10th, we had a meeting regarding the 6 Tower project. I actually had several of those meetings, but that was the main one. On the 12th, I attended the SCED Economic Development meeting with the new director of the SCED board.
Where was that at?
That was at the tourism,
Here?
the chamber building.
Okay.
It was here.
Here in
yes.
town? Okay.
The director came up, and it was just Dale, Charles, and I, and the new director. And we were really just catching up to speed on what the project was and where we were. As you all know, we have 5 letters of commitment for the 6 Tower locations, so that seems to be moving along fairly well, better than I expected, to be truthful. I thought that was going to be difficult, and it may be very difficult. I'm glad we hired a professional to help with those sites. And then on the 16th, of course, that was yesterday, we attended the OEM meeting and the task force meeting, and I've had hundreds of conversations about an item that was removed from the agenda about special use permit, and other than that, just doing my thing that I'm elected to do.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sure.
Commissioner Kanda?
Yep, got a lot of things that happened are we doing this since our last
Yeah.
board meeting? Right? So there
Yeah.
was the Board of Health, all the same, similar meetings. But I want to highlight a couple things that you two need to know about. Of course, we did have that DOLA meeting on the CAS disbursements, and that was very good, I thought. I wish it was more. And then we had a good, well, that was a very lengthy meeting, as a matter of fact. A couple Board of Health meetings, policy meetings, task force meetings. The important thing, I think, on the task force is I think they're making some progress on grants. I think is good, that kind of thing. I would like, and we mentioned this in the last meeting, get them involved more with the people.
I don't know of any other local landscape contractors that would be interested, but that's what we want to do. If that's what we decide, we can move forward with that, so.
Well,
Too close? Okay, sorry.
if it's over 5,000, I think we'll have to put it out for bid.
Well, yeah, I looked the language up. It is, that's right. If it's over 5,000, unless there are circumstances such as only one resource available in the county, a local resource. If there's only one, we don't have to put it out for bid. There was one other circumstance where we wouldn't. There is language in there unless we want to give preference to a local resource as well, I believe, but I'll have to check on that. So there's a little bit of wiggle room, but I didn't feel comfortable moving forward.
I think there's a couple guys up here, but unless they're gone. But
Yeah, I don't.
have to check.
I'm aware of one, so if we want to formally put that out for bids, we can. If we want to say, hey, you know what, we'll just continue to water it by hand, we can. I mean, we'll just have to have that conversation, so. And I think that's all I have. So we'll move on. Upper Ark Water Report. I did attend that meeting. Kind of standard business. They did re-elect the officers for the enterprise, water enterprise. They were the same, so there was no change in their leadership there. And then I had a conversation the other day with a rancher here in the valley who requested that we draft a letter and send it to Judge Swartz, just either informing him or reminding him that the way the augmentation plan is written, it has a great potential to subvert and undermine our local or county planning and zoning regulations that are in place. So I may draft something up and then come back to the commissioners with it.
Can I defer to counsel since this is an active lawsuit. I suspect a letter to the judge would just be thrown out or stuck in a file. He'd never read it. I think someone would need to take some
Yeah.
different legal action. Clint, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I know Judge Schwartz. I've known him for many years. He is not going to consider anything from somebody who's not a party to the case.
Right.
So say that again. And I haven't
Uh,
seen it.
Well, the
What?
general idea is that if the augmentation plan is approved by Judge Schwartz, it's going to open up the potential for people to circumvent really the regulations of planning and zoning. In other words, using more water than what that area was zoned for.
It doesn't have to go back to planning and zoning.
No.
I would think it would.
No, it'll be a law that they can buy augmented water and
understand
use
that.
more water. Let's assume I live over in the East Hills in a 1 acre subdivision. And so, in most of those subdivisions, they're limited to in-house only. And that was a guideline set up in 1974 when they put the planning and zoning regs in place to say, okay, then you use X amount of gallons of water for your property. Now, if the augmentation plan is approved, then those people can buy additional augmented water. The water will be put into Grape Creek, but it will allow them to pump another 10,000 or a tenth of an acre foot a year, which is really in conflict of what the planning and zoning regs were written for.
Yeah, I think we do need to have a discussion about that because, zoning still is zoning, and you can't irrigate more than what the zoning was allowing. It didn't have anything to do with water then. It was with,
I believe, and I'll defer again to
So we have to
counsel
talk
if Clint wanted to chime in, but I believe the judge's order would usurp
Yeah,
our planning and zoning regulations.
yeah.
And that would be, that's the item that we're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's the whole thing. See, they would be able to then irrigate outdoors, irrigate outside of our zoning regs, because I agree. I think that augmentation plan will usurp anything that we have going on for our zoning regs currently. So that was a concern that a rancher brought up, and I told him I would bring it up at the meeting. Other than that, that's all I had to report for Upper Ark. Attorney items?
I worked with Jackie Hobby and Vic Barnes concerning the item that had been on the agenda. The Planning Commission had initially made a recommendation that was going to be considered today, but there were some subsequent events that occurred, and they wanted to postpone today's consideration of that, and I told them that they had the right to do that. Just notify you so you could take it off the agenda, which they did. I've worked with Jackie Hobby on some other planning and zoning issues, violations, including one where an attorney from Denver has gotten involved now. There was a letter from her, and I responded to that, and we're working on that one. That's a property out in Deweese. And then I had a long telephone conversation with Sam DiNardo, the auditor for Custer County, about the hospital, the ambulance service issue for Eastern Custer County, and I'll discuss that and report on that during the executive session that we have scheduled for later. And that's pretty much what I've been doing.
All right, sir, thank you, appreciate it. I wonder, well, I guess we're right there on the agenda, aren't we? It's the next item on the agenda. I would certainly defer to our administrative assistant for any items that she may have. You're good?
Wednesday she might say I'm bad. That
That's
would be a
right,
bad
that's
thing.
right.
That'll perk our interest.
All right, we'll move on. Public comment. According to Vern, we have 2 people on the phone, so any public comment come before the group? Hearing none, we'll move on. Unfinished business, gentlemen?
I have none, sir.
Neither do I.
Nor do I. I failed to mention, and I'll do it just quickly, that Lynn Legree sent out the agenda for the airport board, and I see they're back to their 10 o'clock morning meeting and not their 5:30 evening. So their experiment must have not have turned out too well. So they're going back to a morning meeting down at the airport.
That's because you can have hamburgers at noon.
Yeah, which we didn't get this year, did we? So we'll move on then to new business. We'll allow public comment during or prior to the vote on any action item. First item of business is the reading and adoption of the model traffic code, ordinance 20-02. This is a second reading, as I understand it, is by title only. I will turn the floor over to council.
That's correct. For ordinance number 20-02, and the title is an ordinance for the regulation of traffic by the county of Custer, adopting by reference the 2020 edition of the Model Traffic Code, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing penalties for violations thereof. The first reading was done in full on May 20. This is the second reading, and it only needs to be read by reference to the title, which I just did. So the procedure now, since it was approved, is for you to consider whether you want to officially adopt this as an ordinance. If you do, then I prepared some other things that need to happen because we have to send a copy of this to the Colorado Department of Transportation for their official approval, only as to state highways that are affected by this. And then there's a certification that you as commissioners will also need to sign in addition to signing the ordinance, which will be attached to the copies, the 3 copies that Kelly is required to keep in her office, and another copy that should be attached, another copy of this certification that should be attached to the one that the court has. So that's all I have. If you're prepared to vote on this, then that's where we're at now.
Okay. Yeah, I'll get to you in just a second, sir. Section 10, effective date 30 days after it has been published following the second reading and adoption by the Board of County Commissioners. This is a sentence that I wanted to bring up. No regulations pertaining to state highways shall become effective until approval has been obtained from the Colorado Department of Transportation. So that's the only language in there that really pertains to state highways, and that's what you're referring to.
That's correct.
Yes. Commissioner Kanda, or Prince, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just going to say I move that we adopt ordinance 20-2 and adhere to the requirements of the state CDOT.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt ordinance 20-02 as title. I'll read the title again because that's all we're doing today is just a title. An ordinance for the regulation of traffic by, sir, it says by the Custer County on mine. That was changed, correct? By the county of Custer.
The county of Custer.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay. Adopting by reference the 2020 edition of the Model Traffic Code, repealing all ordinances in conflict therewith, and providing penalties for violations thereof. Further discussion? I'm just going to make that change on mine real quick. Give me just a second. Hearing no discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of adopting ordinance 20-02, say aye. Commissioner Kenda.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Fowler votes aye. Motion carries. The ordinance 20-2 has been adopted. Do we have a hard copy to sign? Yes, we do.
Thank you, Clint.
Yeah, but that has to go up to the state because we have to send them. This is my cover letter that will go up to CDOT along with a copy of the ordinance and a copy of the certification. Bless you. Did we have someone else join that wants to introduce themselves? Okay, we'll move on. Next item of business, consideration of the HVAC rooftop unit. We did get a bid from a contractor, was the only bid we received. I believe I sent that, forwarded that bid on to you gentlemen.
You did.
For $10,578.34.
I move we accept that and make it happen.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded to accept the $10,578.34 bid from Michael Thiem. Discussion?
Question?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Is that going to come out of repairs and maintenance budget?
I'll check either that buildings or repairs and maintenance, one of the
Okay.
two. Yeah,
Fine.
I'll check on it, make sure. Good question. Further discussion? I would just say, obviously, that LG unit up there is just about ready to go. So I think
Absolutely time.
that, and it will, the bid calls for moving the mixing boxes down into the attic somewhere near the door of the clerk's office, and reroute all the plumbing, and then re-insulate and cover the stuff that's on, that will be left on the roof. There'll still be a unit up there.
Why are they moving the airflow?
Well, the manufacturer says that cannot be placed on the roof.
Really?
Mixing boxes.
Really?
Yeah.
It's going to be noisy.
Weather just screws it all up, and that's why, one of the
That's
reasons
probably
it's
why
not
it failed.
working very well
Yes.
right now, yeah.
Mr. Thiem told me he thought it probably should never have been done that way in the first place.
Yeah, and I've got the manufacturer's specs on that. I've got that document. It clearly says that those mixing boxes are not to be mounted in an outdoor environment, so.
Good.
Further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of accepting Michael Thiem's bid for the rooftop units, say aye. I've been doing roll call, but it's not necessary
It's
now that
okay.
we're all here, so.
Sometimes it helps.
Right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That bid has been accepted, and I will notify Mr. Thiem about that. Yes. Yes. Next item of business is consideration of scraping rental for the landfill. We did receive a bid from a local contractor. I have spoken with the manager of the landfill, the former manager of the landfill. There was some discussion about really the maintenance and repairs of a piece of equipment if we lease it from a private individual versus leasing it from a company. Mr. Lockhart indicated clearly that if we were to rent a piece of equipment from, let's say, CAT or Four Rivers, all of that would be covered regardless, and if we rent it from a private individual, it would not be. So therefore, I'm going to move that we authorize landfill to move forward with leasing a scraper. I hate to say CAT or Four Rivers, but I believe it's CAT.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to authorize landfill manager to lease a scraper from a vendor out of Pueblo. How's that? Discussion?
I got a quick one. Cost difference, because maintenance, a couple grease zerks, not
Right
too bad,
question.
if that's all it is, unless there's some, like a generator breaks down and then you got to repair it. But I don't know if that would be covered or whether we could even write an agreement that would say major items that would fail we could not be responsible for. Something to consider if it's a big enough difference.
Well, the language in the bid that we got from an individual locally said that acceptance of this estimate implies an understanding that it will be accompanied by a standard equipment lease contract that holds the county responsible for the cost of repairs needed as a result of improper operation or adverse conditions. Repair of ordinary unpredictable breakdowns would be the responsibility of this particular company. The machine is currently available. 1 month is equivalent to 28 days, consisting of no more than 160 cumulative hours of use. So the issue really is not necessarily improper operation. It's the adverse conditions. We know we're going to get into a rock layer. It's happened throughout that entire trench.
What was the price?
$23,060. So that was a concern that if we leased a machine from a vendor, then they would cover that regardless. That's part of the deal. It would be no question. Doesn't matter what happens to the machine, they would come up and take care of it.
And what was it? What's that estimate? Roughly
20,000.
26 is, no, 20 for the vendor?
Yes. We don't have a hard figure yet.
Yeah.
Tom, may I?
Go ahead, sir.
The private company up here, individual who was talking about running that, I don't know, I can't believe if he checked with his insurance, I'll bet they would not allow him to lease it out. It might affect his own insurance, so I don't know if that was ever considered or not.
Yeah, I don't either. I didn't have that conversation with him. I just took him at his word of the bid that he submitted. So, yes, sir. Commissioner Prince.
I concur with Commissioner Kanda that it's not a risk I think we ought to take, because we just don't know what we're going to find and what we may uncover. Even if it's a little more expensive to rent one where we don't have that liability, I'm much more in favor of going with someone who alleviates us from that. So I agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a million things could go wrong on a scraper if we get into that rock layer, which, you know, they're very convinced that we will. If we blow a chain off of that feeder,
Price could double
we'd be
real
looking at
quickly.
$10,000 real easy for those kind of repairs. So, yeah, I just felt like, you know, when we first looked into this, that we needed to do our due diligence and see if we could support a local business, do it locally. I agree the money is the same. It's the risk management that I'm concerned about. So, further discussion?
Well, I would just like to mention I did speak to Rusty Christensen about this, and he's all on board to work with Mr. Lockhart once we have the equipment in place. So I'm feeling very good. And Tom, I just want to tell you, I really appreciate, I was ready to accept one of the bids originally at almost 3 times this amount. This was a very good idea, and I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Further discussion? Public comment?
Restate the motion.
Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote on authorizing the landfill manager to contract with a vendor out of Pueblo for the rental of a scraper. Right now, it's scheduled July 6th. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion opposed, nay. Motion carries. I will reach out to Mr. Lockhart.
Just point of order, sir. If 3 people say aye and there's only 3 voting, do you even need to ask?
That's why I keep
I'm
forgetting
just
to ask
curious.
for a nay. Technically, you do.
Okay.
I may have misunderstood, or maybe both of you voted at the same time, and I thought only one of you voted. I mean, there's other things could happen, so.
That's fine. I was just curious.
Yeah, it is a little awkward when there's 3 of us sitting there.
And it's just us, so we can
Yeah.
accept
Yeah.
changes
Just us.
real time.
Okay, we'll move on. Thank you. Next item of business, let me get back to our agenda here. Consideration of the housing rehabilitation documents. These were provided by the Upper Arkansas Council of Government. Pull those docs up. There were numerous documents.
And it's not retaliation, right?
That's right. That's not retaliation. It's rehabilitation. Yeah. Let's see here. Some of these were for historical reference. The I'm going to go through these individually because some of them needed signatures and to be filled in. So attachment R was the excessive force sample resolution. And then, gosh darn it. Attachment A, the applicant statement of assurances and certifications, I'm sorry, that would need a signature as well. I'll go on, I'm just making a note here. And then attachment Q was the community development plan for the development or community block grant. And that also needs a signature. This is fairly much standard stuff. We went through all these, I believe, last year with COG, yeah, who now has a new slate of employees, as I'm sure you guys are aware of.
Just FYI, if I may, the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments is having their quarterly meeting. They move it around from the different areas. The one on a week from Thursday is here in Custer County. It's going to be at Tony's Pizza.
Okay, and the date on that exactly?
Let me look real quick. I pulled it up to tell you. And
25th, a week from today?
no, sir.
Week from
It is
tomorrow.
a week from today. It's the 24th,
Oh, 24th.
10 a.m. at Tony's Pizza.
Oh, okay. I will be in a board meeting, so I'll have to miss that. I would have gone otherwise, because I think it's nice to
What
have
day of the
some
week is that?
representatives.
It's the 24th. I've been
that
the
a Wednesday?
county rep on that, and I'll certainly be attending, but you are certainly welcome to attend.
So it's on a Wednesday?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's your gig.
So attachment D would also require a signature. Attachment I is the intergovernmental agreement for the community block grant. So we need to sign that as well. And attachment P, date and a signature on that.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the housing rehabilitation documents as presented this morning and sign the attachments as required to adopt these.
Yeah, I'll second these.
Been moved and seconded to adopt approve the attachments and the entire process of sending in the applications for the housing rehabilitation program.
So the originals you can sign later, right?
Yeah, we don't
Or
have to
some-
sign
we're
them
gonna sign
today.
them
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
that's
sign
correct, because there's quite a few of them, and all of them asked for the chief elected
Right.
official. So the other thing I wanted to bring up in that during discussion here is there was one other document, and it was the local government commitment letter. And I'll just read it quickly. Custer County appreciates the services provided to low to moderate income families through the housing rehab program. We also value the presentation of our housing stock through the upgrading of substandard units. To demonstrate our support of the efforts to preserve housing, we agreed to do the following, and then there's a list of some things that we could opt in to accept in an effort to support them, such as reduce the building permit fees by $100 per unit, waive building permit fees for units rehabbed, reduce water and sewer taps. I don't believe we have the authority to do that. Waive water and sewer taps. Again, I don't think that's under our purview. Commit $100 cash per unit rehabbed within this jurisdiction, or contribute X number of dollars to the rehab program for the 2020-2021 budget or others. So I don't know if we want to get into that. It's not part of the documentation. If it's something that we wanted to do, we could move forward with that. So I'm going to probably suggest we hold off on making those decisions and let's send the documentation. And then if they request that, I think we could consider it later.
I agree. I'd like, if we ever decide to do it, I'd like to do it on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and we'd have to understand why that's necessary.
Exactly. Rather than a blanket, it just doesn't
Right.
make sense.
Yeah, I mean, they're asking us obviously to kind of help them out and make it a little easier, a little cheaper to do that. And we have no idea. I mean, there could be 1 unit, there could be 30 units.
That's
We just
why
don't
I'd
have
like
any
to know it
idea.
on a case-by-case basis.
Okay. Further discussion? Public comment? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the Upper Arkansas Council of Governments Rehabilitation Program, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I will ask Kara to provide hard copies of that, and I'll sign the appropriate ones, and we'll send them back to Amanda.
Could do during budget time is account for something maybe
Yeah.
that we could use.
Yeah, we could earmark a certain
Yeah, we'd have-
amount of dollars or whatever.
Yeah, I
We don't have to use it.
I agree, but I'd like to know what the number is
right.
before I just blanketly
Just have a plot.
approve some
Right.
huge, potentially could be a large number. Personally, I really like the idea of assisting, but there's a limit to what, I mean, I got to know what it is before I approve it.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item. Discussion of the West Custer County Hospital District proposed survey to East Custer County residents. Obviously, we have scheduled an executive session today for some discussion on strategy and planning for the ambulance coverage down there, but I put that on the agenda so that we would have an opportunity to at least talk about the survey itself.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we postpone this item until either after the executive session or to another BOCC meeting to talk about in the executive session whether this is an appropriate thing for us to be involved in.
Yeah, I agree. I
Okay.
think it's something, I don't know if this is, I know we discussed this and having a survey, and I know they wanted to do it, but I think we have a little time to work that, but I think we want to try to get something on this ballot this year, right?
Right, and I think our executive session will have discussion that's germane to this, so I'm a little concerned about making any kind of even a discussion at this point. I don't mind suspending the BOCC, having our executive session, then come back to this item if that's appropriate, Mr. Chairman, but I'm just not quite ready to do it at this moment.
Okay. Well, certainly I didn't put anything about consideration and a vote on this matter. Just thought it would give us an opportunity to discuss. Now, if you want to introduce a motion to that effect, sir, you're welcome to do that. I just thought it would give us an opportunity to have a discussion about the survey itself. That's all this was for.
Can I had pointed out to Tom last week that their cover letter was they wanted a response from the Board of County Commissioners by June 9, and they were planning to send this survey out by mail on June 11. And I don't know whether the hospital district board went ahead and did that
Okay.
or not.
And that's why I put it on there for discussion. I don't want to steamroll the opportunity for Commissioner Prince to make a motion to postpone if that's what he wants to do, but it was just for discussion. So,
I'm sorry. Yeah, I move that we move this agenda item to after the executive session. We'll reconvene the BOCC to discuss it.
I'll second it.
been moved and seconded to postpone this item of discussion until after the executive session, further discussion. Yeah, I think that's reasonable, and typically we would not be able to just change the agenda, but you can certainly postpone it to a later time in this meeting, and we'd be within the rules. So, further discussion on postponement. This is not voting on an action item. I will not allow public comment. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries. We will postpone until after the executive session, and I would ask that you all help me remember to bring that back up so we don't forget it.
You bet.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is discussion of the 2020 and 2021 revenues, expenditures, and budgets. I included this because I just think we need to be a little proactive given the impacts or the potential impacts of the coronavirus on our budgeting process. I did speak with Donna Hobby. She has estimated that we will probably take a 15% reduction in our revenues for this calendar year. I did talk with Virginia in the treasurer's office, and she reported that we have a currently year-to-date compared to last year a sales tax increase of $142,000. So I thought, wow, that's very surprising. I said, what do you attribute that to? And didn't even hesitate. That office believes that was due to an increased amount of local shopping when people did not want to drive off the hill during the coronavirus.
Are we having a
the
discussion right now on it?
So, yeah, it's discussion.
I can add to that.
That's what it is. This is a discussion item only.
I had a talk with Paul Winkie on this and other things when I got into this. The town has had an increase of revenue this year by 12% or more, I think it was, is what he said. It's up. Also, his store is booming, and he contributes that to that point, as well as the building. Building's going on up here because of maybe the coronavirus putting people wanting to be further away from a city, basically. And the boom has helped us a little bit. So it's kind of hard to say what our real tax is going to be. However, I worry more about the following year. You know, if our businesses don't come back strong like they have, and building goes down, then we could be in trouble.
Bill, your point's well taken. There's one other factor that's going to come into play on July 1st, where both towns, the sales tax increase goes up 1%, which...
Only one town July 1st, the other one's January 1st.
Okay, my mistake. Thank you for correcting me. Silver Cliff is January? Okay, thank you. I was unaware of that. But at any rate, sales tax is going to increase, which may have people seeking lower tax rates outside of Custer County. So I think your point's well taken that this may be short-lived because of the coronavirus. So are you recommending we just shut the borders down? Don't let anybody out to buy things? That was a joke.
Let's just keep them here. Keep them here.
I was kidding.
Okay, one other thing that comes to mind, too, on this. We stand to lose, let's see, from a coronavirus point of view. I gotta rethink that. You interrupted my thought with other good thoughts, Jay.
Sorry about that.
I think we could claim some of this for some of the money reimbursement because there's things that we're going to have to do differently because of the coronavirus.
I agree completely.
If our budgets, and I don't think we can claim the budget loss, but you can claim the fact that you're not going to have the revenue to make it up. For example, what are we going to do with our Justice Center? We're faced with a decision that says you will do it or we'll make you do it, and so we've got to raise money to do that. That to me is a coronavirus issue because we are looking at some possible help with a mill levy or a tax of some kind, some bond or something in order to finance that, as well as from a fiber program point of view. You know, if grants need matching funds, a way you can match it as well. We got to go through that discussion with the guy we've got hired. But if we can't get the revenue from taxes later, it seems to me that's an impact because people can't afford it, don't want to do it because of the impacts they've had due to coronavirus.
Bill, I absolutely agree with you. I would propose once we get the intergovernmental agreement between the two towns and the county to discuss the money that we're getting from DOLA or through DOLA. That certainly should be a discussion item on what we feel qualifies for that reimbursement and what doesn't. So I think your point's really well taken. I'm just thinking it might be slightly premature.
Oh, yeah, it's just a point.
Yeah, I just, I think we need to remind everybody that will be asked to submit their budgets for next year that they keep in mind. There's a good chance we're going to have some kind of a reduction in revenues. Who knows? As you say, it's probably more impactful next year than this year. But the other thing I thought that comes into play here, and again, we don't know that, but two of the revenue streams that I do believe that are going to be severely impacted will be our HUTF funds and our PILT funds.
Absolutely.
We've still PILT scheduled to give us the dollar amount for the year before the end of June. So in the next 10 days, we should be hearing from PILT about that money. I just suspect it's going to be less. And
Yeah, it probably will be. That's another, but the parks can help solve that, because if we get people driving up here to the mountains, that'll help, but who knows?
Right, and I think that potentially could be part of the DOLA pass-through grant. You know, we have lost X amount of dollars from PILT, and that's a direct result of Corona, and therefore that could be potentially reimbursed to us. But that's only for this year. We don't know what's going to happen in 2021, and we don't know if this virus is going to hang around or this thing is going to go away. I mean, you know, the whole world right now is just a big question mark. So we have to plan for, you know, what we think is realistic and move forward and hope for the best.
Yeah, I was just going to look real quick on the general fund estimates for revenues. I may not be able to find it real quick, so if I can't, then we'll move on. But yeah, so our budget for PILT revenue for 2020 was $470,000. So if we take a 15% hit on that, you know, we're looking at 55,000. So again, we'll get those numbers here within the next 2 weeks.
Right.
Even our intergovernmental monies are going to be down, agreement monies.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on then. Discussion of the Kids Council / county MOU. Pull that document real quick. Give me just a second here. I thought I had that in my board packet. I don't seem to, so I'm trying to pull it up out of a file. Yeah, let me look.
Thank you, Ms. Guerra.
I did too. Yeah, if you don't mind, if you would do that, I would appreciate it.
Why don't you make a hard copy of it?
I did, I just printed it out, we'll find it right over.
Yeah, my apologies. I thought it was in I had dropped it in the board packet for today's meeting, but I don't see it.
All I heard is they got a new grant.
They did, yep, 25,000.
Yeah, that's a
Doubled their
total of
money.
50 grand they've received, and I just have to tell you, that's fantastic. They're really on the ball over there.
She's expended some of that money. I saw the vouchers come through.
Right. I received it. Here, I received it, thank you. If I can download it, that would be great.
Got an email from Vernon Roth this morning while we're waiting on those documents. Vernon indicated that Brian Lockhart is on the phone from Landfill. Brian, are you on the phone? That was at 9:30.
Probably gave up
so-
after he heard
yeah.
the scrapers.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna take a copy of the sign.
So we had this document to look at earlier. It's just an MOU between us and the Kids Council that primarily says we're serving as the fiscal agent. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. So I had a copy of the one we signed last year and a copy of this one. I just cannot lay my hand on it this morning. So I would move that we approve the MOU as presented by the Kids Council.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the memorandum of understanding between Custer County and the Custer County Kids Council. Further discussion? Here, public comment? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of approving the MOU with the Kids Council, say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That has been approved. Today is the 17th. Go, ma'am. Are there any additional items to come before the group?
None from me.
No, sir.
Tom, I'm sorry, I just wanted to mention that I got a phone message that came in from an attorney in Denver who wants to talk to me about the Three Peaks SUP, so I'll call him back afterwards.
Okay, thank you. So I would move that we recess the Board of County Commissioners meeting and convene an executive session.
I'll second it.
Move and second to take a recess and convene an executive session during the recess for the purpose of strategy and planning for ambulance coverage for East Custer County and discussion pertaining to a personnel matter. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We stand in recess. And actually, let me back up. Do I need to read the documentation about the executive session while we're still in session of this meeting, or can we do it at the beginning of the executive session? Well, I just indicated the purpose of the executive session, but if we need to do that a little more formally, I can do that.
Yeah, state what we're going to be discussing in executive session as far as the, not the personnel matter, but as far as the other
Yeah, and
issue.
I did that in my motion.
Okay.
I'm asking, is that sufficient?
You know, that's fine.
We stand in recess. Ms. Kelly, are you prepared to serve as a clerk for the executive session?
Thinks
You
he
gonna
thought
stay?
it Goes with the territory.
Yeah, except the personnel.
Okay, so you want to be here for the
It
strategy and planning? I had just
entire time we were in executive session.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Hearing no statements of concern about the executive session, we will move on to the next agenda item. There was a motion to postpone the discussion of the West Custer County Hospital District proposed survey to East Custer County until after the executive session. Floor is open for discussion pertaining to that agenda. Go ahead, Commissioner Prince.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there are some inaccuracies in the survey. For example, I believe the survey said that the cost of legal service, if the decision was made to have a separate ambulance district, the cost of legal services would be paid by the county. I don't believe we voted on that or agreed to that, so I think that was inaccurate. So this is a discussion, so I'm just feeling that maybe a letter to the ambulance service hospital district stating that inaccuracy needs to be corrected.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought the survey was a little misleading and certainly kind of ambiguous, and I think there was some statements in there that were misrepresented on behalf of the county commission.
But if I can make one other comment before we move on, I just want to reiterate that ambulance service is being, the eastern portion of the county, including Wetmore, is currently being serviced by ambulance service. No one has recommended abandoning that. The commissioners will not stand for that, will not allow it to occur, and we feel compelled that all citizens of Custer County are entitled to ambulance service. We're just trying to work through the appropriate way to handle it for a portion of the county that is currently not paying for the service, even though they're receiving the service at this point.
Yeah, this is Bill. I agree, and one thing we want to also mention is the hospital district also said ambulance service is going to continue until it's resolved, so I want to reassure all the citizens that they're still covered. And the survey, although it is needed, maybe we need to have a discussion with the hospital district on what to do next, either redo it or get the right information so we can make good decisions.
I agree with that, Bill, and I think in deference to the ambulance service, they are providing the service. They're not being enumerated for it, and that's a concern, and we need to come out with a plan that makes it fair for all the citizens of Custer County. But it's so important, as you just said, Bill, they are getting service. They will continue to get service. No one has said we're cutting it off. That discussion took place at the very, very beginning of this. The commissioners jumped in, and the ambulance corps immediately agreed that they do not want to stop ambulance service. So it's just very important for me to know that nobody in this county does not have ambulance service, regardless of whether you are paying for it or not. At this point, we're just trying to work out what's equitable for all taxpayers.
On a side note real quick, I sent you a copy of the Corona Relief Fund letter. Christy Doon just sent me an email and said she thought it looked fine, so I'm going to distribute that this afternoon if that's all right.
Excellent, thank
I
you.
think we only need one signature from the commissioners. I'll sign that, take it up to Silver Cliff, and then ask them to take it to West Cliff, and then we'll get it back and get that baby uploaded to the portal. So
Sounds great. Thanks for doing that, Tom.
my understanding is that there is a, for lack of a better term, a town hall meeting in Wetmore tonight concerning the ambulance. I volunteered to go down and attend that meeting and offer any facts or documents that I'm able to do that. So I will represent us there.
If I may, Mr.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to say I'm the commissioner for that district. However, since there's an election going on, I'm going to refrain from going, and I'm going to allow you to go, not because I don't care about the folks down there, because I do very much. So, but I'm concerned that I don't want it to be even the slightest appearance of a political ploy by going down there. So I'm going to refrain from going just so that we can handle the ambulance district and not make this into a political agenda.
Okay. On a side note too, before we adjourn, I got an email from Meredith, this pertaining to a conversation we had yesterday about the coronavirus relief fund. She believes that the variable message signs would be an eligible expense, so she's going to look into getting us a price on a couple of those babies.
That's great.
3 babies.
3 babies.
She asked me about that, and she sent the language, and I'm satisfied that that would be covered. It's a reasonable expense, reasonably related to the purpose of what she's trying to do.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so I'll have a conversation with Donna about that. I mean, obviously, it's a reimbursable item. I don't think it'd have to come to a vote of the commissioners before we expended any money. But if we get an idea of how much it is and where that money would come from.
I'm fine with it as a reimbursable expense. I have no issue expending it, as knowing that it's coming back.
That's right.
Certainly, my opinion would be that any message on that board has to be directly related to the coronavirus and not fires or other things,
Correct.
at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it'll be allowed eventually. Sure.
Thank you, ma'am. So this is I'm going to sign this document for the 3 entities on behalf of the commissioners, and then I'll take this over to.
Thanks for taking the lead on that interagency agreement.
I'll probably let them know that we need this back within a week because we have to have it uploaded by the 7th of July.
ASAP.
Anything else to come before the commissioners at this time before we move on to public comment?
I have none, sir.
Okay, give me just a second here. I don't know if we have anybody to join us after the executive session. I'll open it up for public comment. Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed nay. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Kelly.